Right then, guys. So we're going to talk about lucent and why lucent and how it's implemented is the most toxic thing an MMORPG has ever seen in the context of Throne of Liberty. It's actually unbelievably disgusting. It's the reason why there are so many issues in the end game that we have. So I don't know about you guys, but do you ever have this feeling in this game where like you don't really know what to do? Like you know what to do. You know that your blue gear needs more traits, or you know that you should be like farming this specific purple weapon or piece of armor, but you're just like, apart from like the obvious ones where like it's in a dungeon, co-op dungeon or whatever, like in your head you're just like, where do I do that? And what I mean by that is like, I'll give you an example, right? Like we understand how to acquire this stuff, right? Like I found some like blue pants and they were dropping from large stone golem, which is like an open world monster. And I was like, hey, this is a great monster to farm some blue gear because it's an open world mob. I can farm it, get some traits into the gear. And I was there for like 2-3 hours and none of them dropped. And I thought, hang on a minute, like I'm supposed to like do this to get 3 ideal traits on the gear and then go farm a bunch of other pants to get the stats up on the blue gear. And like that's the gameplay loop you're giving me? Like really? And it just alienated me. I was just like, it's so disrespectful to my time and like just me as a human being. Like you should all feel the same. Like it's disgusting. Like I know it's a Korean MMO and I know it's grindy, but the problem this game has, right, is that it's not fun to grind. Like when I go on Black Desert Online and I'm grinding stuff, right, I'm not thinking about the fact that I'm grinding something. My brain is shut off because the combat system is so close to perfect that all I'm really thinking about is my character looks cool. I want my fluid movement to be perfect, so I put effort into that and making sure I'm pressing my right keys, doing my rotations correctly. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm not sat there thinking about, oh, I wish this thing would drop, man. If it don't drop, then the whole of today's just been a waste of my life. Like, that's what this game is, though. You go somewhere and you farm that spot just thinking, I really wish this one thing would drop with the one perfect stat I need. And if it doesn't, then I've wasted 6 hours of my life. Like, that is not enough depth, okay? And we're going to come to how that ties into lucent now, and also why it's completely murdered the end game. Murdered it, okay? So what I want to talk about is the auction house element of lucent. Now, I know some people out there, they're either not going to grasp this idea or they're just not going to agree with me, and that's fine. But having a premium currency that can obtain you gear in itself is not like, it's not the end of the world. And when I think about that, I think about it, let's say in a, you know, I make the comparisons, but in a Black Desert Online kind of sense, you kind of can just do that, right? Like you buy currency, you do certain things with it, you make a bunch of money, use the money to buy gear that's perfect or end game. Like that's pay to win, etc. Right? No one disagrees with that, hopefully, I'm sure. So there's not, I don't know, I don't inherently see things wrong with that, like, because, you know, I don't know, like, I sort of feel like they don't have to do that, but we live in a Western society about capitalism, making money, and, you know, like, so I get it, you know, like, I'm not alienated by that, I'm not deeply upset by it. I'm not someone that can go spend $10,000 on each new game that comes out to be the best geared person in it straight away on like day one, right? I'm never going to be that person. Even if I was a millionaire, I wouldn't do it. But my point is with it though, is that in this game, with how it is balanced, with how the context of endgame is, with how shitty the fucking group combat actually is in this game, and how toxic and a dominant alliance can be to the rest of their server if they choose to be. If they choose to be toxic, it is literally like you can murder a server. You can make an entire server quit if you wanted to as a dominant guild. If you actually wanted to, you could do it very, very easily. And the reason why they're motivated, like, I feel like most guilds probably know they can do it, but choose not to. And then some guilds, they probably have members that like get antagonized by like annoying trolls in the chat, which antagonizes them to go and do those things. And then other people just get caught in the crossfire. And then it just like becomes a drama, right? That's probably where most dramas are coming from. But then some guilds probably are actually going out of their way to be like, hey, you know, we run this server. It's gonna like, what are we gonna get to the point, right, where we actually have a point where like a guild is controlling space, not a server, but they're controlling a location in the world, and it's gonna get to the point where like if your guild leader doesn't pay them in real life money, then none of his guild members can access that part of the world without just being constantly PK'd. Because that is where we're going. And the reason that we're going there is because we have this like thick toxic motivation provided by the game to these dominant guilds that says, if you control all of these things, you're going to be able to sell it for real world money things. Because you can sell it for lucent. So like being able to dominate and control those spaces and being toxic about it is rewarding. And we're not talking about emotional reward where it's like, hey, we're the best guild, middle finger to everyone else, haha. Because that wears off and people calm down, people quit, people get less active, new guild might pop up, you know, people have dramas in their guild, they might fall apart. But like, no, like, it's like a job to them now. It becomes a job. It would become a job to me because I'm having financial incentive and reward to do this. Like, what's the end point? The end point is like these dominant guilds become socially entangled with lucent bot sellers, and they start selling lucent to these bot sellers for real world money or something like this. You know, I don't know. Like the end point is just like, I don't even know, but it's unexcusable and it's god awful. And I actually think that this game would be better with a system where the lucent just was stereotypical. It bought you power, buffs, I don't know, the stereotypical shit that you would get in an MMO store, right? If it bought you all that, I think that would be better than the fact that you could buy gear with it, or that you could sell gear on an auction house for it. I know that, you know, we talk about gold this, gold that, but, you know, we talk about, you know, like, there's loads of videos, especially like in a marketing sense, where we talk about how, like, if we add different layers of currencies, it actually detaches their brain emotionally and logically from the value of that currency. You just see it as a currency. That's why games will be like, hey, spend $25 to buy 2,500 points, and then with those points you can buy life currency, cloud currency, car currency, curtain currency. After enough time, you don't think about the points, you don't think about the $25, you just think about, I need car currency, I need curtain currency. But with the way that we've grown up in our society, our brains aren't equipped to be alert to the concept of, I've just bought 900 curtain currency. Like, your brain is not logically alert to that. Like, you need to protect yourself. You know, it's just not alert to that. And I think, actually, I'm not currently a part of the endgame systems, but I've seen enough people who are. I've talked to enough people who are. I've seen enough videos from the really, really competitive servers and how people are talking about them from different sides. People that are on the good side of the outcome, people that are on the bad side. They're all saying the same thing, you know, and it all ends bad and it kills the game. The game is already dead on arrival because it's got 300,000 players on PC. Okay, console gamers are so, like, you know, console gamers buy FIFA every year in the millions. Okay, so we cannot really sit here and say that any game that a console gamer plays makes a game good or bad. Okay, I've had a console before, and console games are so generic and boring these days compared to PC games. that, you know, the most average of games is like the best game ever on a console. If you only have a console, I mean. So, you know, I don't want to consider the console metrics, because I think like, what, I don't even know, like, what is it, Dungeons and Dragons Online or something? That's their standard of MMORPGs on console, or Terra. Like, I don't know if Terra's even still going, but you know, like, they don't have a comparison to be like, hey, this is good, this is bad. Like, you know, they didn't have Arcade console, or, you know, like World of Warcraft 2006 console. Like, do you know what I mean? So like, this is what I'm talking about. The video is at 10 minutes. I'm actually, you know what, I'm gonna put the Amazon bit in this. I want to end this. I'm gonna put links in this video to the Steam charts of Amazon's MMORPGs, and it is important because it's all they do. Now, I didn't realize this, but Amazon are obsessed with MMORPGs. You know, New World Eternum, Throne and Liberty, Lost Ark. They are obsessed with MMOs. And I thought to myself, you know, like, why are they so obsessed with this? You know, like, I thought, you know, they're, you know, what, they linked with Twitch. Now they're getting into like the MMORPG space, not shooters, not, you know, Farmville games. They're going really, they really trying to go after the MMORPG space, to the point that they've like either developed with or licensed or taken over what would have been 3 huge IPs, and we can verify that they're huge IPs because New World all-time peak 913k, Lost Ark all-time peak 1.3 million, Throne and Liberty significantly less but still a very large number. You know, include console, I guess you could probably say it's a bit similar, more towards like maybe New World, 333,000 peak. So like, they've obsessed with like, okay, this MMORPG is going to be really successful. We need to go and grab it. We need to license it. We need to take it over. We need to do this, right? It's what Amazon do. They're so large that when companies get that large, all you can do is assimilate and consume and just obliterate. You know, that's all you can do when you're that big. You know, you think about like a large, massive golem. If it's walking around a forest, it doesn't think about the trees that it's crushing when it moves around. It sees the trees the same way that we see blades of grass when we walk on a field, right? All it can do is obliterate. It's not its fault. It's too large. That's just how it is. But what I want you to sort of realize is, open up the links to the Steam charts of those 3 games and look at the trends on the games. Amazon are MMORPG murderers, okay? There is no telling how different something could have been. I mean, maybe it wouldn't have been that different, but there's a possibility of something being very different if someone else managed Lost Ark, if someone else was in the management of New World, if someone else was behind the big decisions of Throne and Liberty. You know, like, I'm talking like, you know, the head bosses that send the messages down to the head boss of the studio to be like, nah, we want this thing changed, or we want that thing, we don't want this thing, right? Because look at the trends, guys. Lost Ark, 1.3 million. Okay, that might have involved some bots, but 1.3 million, 24-hour peak, 25,000. Playing 3 hours ago, 12,000. New World, 913,000 peak, 24-hour peak, 50k. Playing 4 hours ago, 18,000. And that is with a gain of 13,000, by the way, because of New World Eternum and probably how bad Throne and Liberty is actually starting out to go. If you don't include the recent patch, it was down to 4,000 on Steam, okay? Now, if you look at Throne and Liberty, now, visually, we can't replicate the same because we don't have like a year's worth of charts to show the graph getting obliterated, right? But numerically, we can see the damage happening. 333,000 in the start, 24-hour peak, 200k. So literally in a month, we've already lost 33% of the total player base, which is, I'm not saying it's unexpected or unacceptable or something drastically negative, but it's bad, okay? Any business that starts business obtains a customer base of 333,000 people, and then within a month 33% of those people say, you know what, we don't like your product, we don't want anything to do with it, we ain't touching it anymore, like, you know, it's not good. And then playing 4 hours ago, this is the killer, 80,000. Okay, and that number's only going to get smaller over the months and months and months that go, you know, which is shocking really, because a lot of people right now, we're getting towards Christmas, people are going to have the holidays, going to have time off, and I actually still think that that number is going to shrink. And, you know, that's sad because it was a new MMO. It had all the bells and whistles that it needed to be a good MMO, right? But it's not delivered. It's failed. It's dead on arrival. It's dying. I know that I've probably sounded angry or almost delusional at times with how I'm talking about this game. I'm not actually that emotionally invested in it. I'm invested in other people understanding how these companies are taking advantage of you, and I'm invested in just passing on any kind of knowledge or red flag or whistle or bell whistle or anything that just wakes up even one person's mindset to this bullshit. Stop seeing new games come out that have flashy graphics that look good and everyone's hyped for it, and then we all spend money on it and we talk about how we're all broke, but we all spend money on this, right? Get scammed, and then we all go through it again with the next game and the next game and the next game. You know, like, developers out there are taking attention, right? Developers are starting to be like, hey, you know what? No, we're going to design a game that's not live service, that's going to last 10 to 20 to 30 hours, and they're going to pay 39.99 or 49.99 or even 60 quid, whatever, right? They're going to pay that, and we're going to give them a good game. We'll give them a little bit of multiplayer to, like, kill people where there's no pay to win, and they'll enjoy it for a year, and then we'll make a better game. Like, that's the world we need to go back to for every type of game. Okay, MMOs have a slightly longer lifespan than that, I get that, but that's the standard we need to go back to. We need to go back to the world where MMOs were about people that wanted to connect with other people and build from there. It's not about we're the dominating guild and we sell all this thing for real life currency, so now we're motivated to treat everyone like the enemy. Like, that's not a good atmosphere, you know. And it's not about being in an end game. You spent all that time and money to be in the end game. You can get obliterated in 3 or 4 seconds. Okay, that's fine, because we can obliterate other people in 3 or 4 seconds. But instead of being able to do that, we're looking at 1,000 red and green bars on our screen just floating around and trying to figure out what the fuck we're even doing unless we've got an AoE skill to throw out, or someone pulls off a, you know, Michael Jordan level sleep dunk. Like, what are we doing? We're just standing there thinking, like, what the fuck are we gonna do? Like, oh, I guess we go in and we just click on people and hope we win. Like, come on, man, guys, we gotta wake up.